takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of the Jet Take. I am your host for tonight, Kyle Fahey. And, man, it may be the off-season, but the Jets are not on the off-season, as we should say. We have a lot of news. Some coaches have been fired. Wade Johnson did a press conference today. That was interesting. And Gangrene David is my co-host for tonight. That's the most important news of the off-season. David, what's going on?
Mr. Fahey, how are you doing tonight? You know, finally this horrific season has ended. I'm ready to move on to 2017. Hopefully the Jets can finally rebuild, do what they need to do, and let's go into next season stronger, faster, and greener.
Absolutely. I feel like that's definitely from the commercial, but I'll say you just made that up. All right, David, we got a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Let's talk about these 5 coaches who got relieved of their duties and the one offensive coordinator who, quote-unquote, retired. Let's start with Chan Gailey. First of all, do you think this retirement was actually a retirement, or do you think he was fired?
Well, Chan Gailey did plan on leaving, as he was talking about this to Todd Bowles as it was released on NFL.com. But I actually really wanted to talk about how Chan Gailey did do his productions and his deductions on this offense for the Jets. Now, there was some good and there was some bad for Chan Gailey. The good was that he used the middle of the field very well. Pretty much that's the only thing he did. Now, regards to the bad stuff, there was quite a bit. Now, first of all, tight ends were barely used. I get what he was trying to do, use them as run blockers and whatnot, but you gotta get them out there in the field more. You gotta get them out to catch passes, and especially if you got someone like Austin Seferian-Jenkins, he's gotta definitely produce in the offense more. And now, also the running back core, Matt Forte and Bilal Powell. You know, I thought these two could have made a dynamic running back duo if they were just used right. Matt Forte, you know, not only was he overused in my opinion, he wasn't used right because they did a lot of plays where he just ran right up the middle. And that's not what he was meant to do. Look at him in Chicago. He was a pass-catching back. He was a running back that ran around the outside. That's what made him an elite running back, is the way he played on the Chicago Bears. If he would have brought that same style on the Jets, he would have definitely done amazing for the Jets. Regards to Bilal Powell, you know, same attributes as Matt Forte, only younger and faster and stronger. You know, great pass-catching back. He's got amazing speed. He's definitely been underused, and by God, he was actually the best player on this Jets offense. So it's pretty much more happy than sad that Chan Gailey is gone. But hopefully this next offensive coordinator we bring in can actually have more value with the tight ends and running backs.
Yeah, David, I think you make a couple fair points there, especially with the running backs and tight ends. But I would also look at Chan Gailey here, and just to play devil's advocate, you see all the really good things that he did with the team. You know, he's utilized Quincy Enunwa phenomenally. He's not only made him a very good wide receiver, but also a very, very good blocker. So that's a double thing from him right there. He got a fantastic year out of Ryan Fitzpatrick the year before this. Obviously not this year with Fitztragic. Last year was Fitzmagic. So I give him props for that. And also, you know, just with a lot of the injuries we had this year on the offensive line, a lot of the injuries on offense with Eric Decker, you know, Matt Forte towards the latter end of the season. Even Bilal Powell was struggling through injuries for the majority of the year. Then obviously the constant quarterback carousel. I think Chan Gailey did his best for what he had, and I feel like I feel like he didn't deserve to get fired. So I guess this was probably a retirement on his side, and it might make sense in this way that's why we didn't see Christian Hackenberg this year. Maybe they knew Chan, like he said he did. They told Todd Bowles before the beginning of the year, hey, I'm not going to be around next year. Why even teach this kid a new system? That could kind of make sense. I could definitely see that. But let's move on from Chan Gailey, and let's talk about the other coaches that were fired. promptly, as we should say. And those are Kevin Petula, the quarterback coach, Marcel Shipp, the running back coach, Pepper Johnson, the defensive line coach, and Mark Collins, the outside linebackers coach, and Joe Dana, the defensive backs coach. So, any shockers there for you, Kevin? I'm sorry, I was looking at Kevin Petula from David.
Oh, my God. Well, not exactly, because if you look the way these players played, especially the defensive line, there was absolutely no reason why we should have played like this at all. We were 31st in sacks. We were 32nd in interceptions. We were pretty much last or second to last in a lot of defensive categories, and I think the coaching did have a big part of that. So it's no surprise to me that these coaches got fired, because coaching was probably a big reason why this happened. But it still should have been some bigger production this year from the defense. We all thought going to this season it was going to be an elite defense, possibly top 5 in the league like it was last season. But instead, the defense has regressed, especially the defensive line, and I definitely think that coaching was part of the reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a fair point. And I look at this list, obviously, I don't think Marcel Shipp deserved to get fired. I think the running backs were fairly good this year. Both got over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Pepper Johnson needed to go. I didn't see anything from the defensive line this year that we definitely should have with all the elite level talent that we have on there in the first-round picks. The outside linebackers, Mark Collins, he needed to go. And then Joe Dana, the defensive backs, he needed to go. So I feel like Kevin Petula and Marcel Shipp probably should have stayed, but, I guess these were decisions made by upper management and probably even Todd Bowles here. So now it's on to replacing them, and primarily Chan Gailey. Now, David, apparently, according to reports from, I believe, ESPN, Adam Schefter, I'll give him credit for that, he says that the Philadelphia Eagles have denied the New York Jets' request to interview their quarterback coach, John DeFilippo. Wow, he has a hard last name to pronounce. What is your reaction on that?
Well, the fact that it's kind of a decline. I mean, listen, these schemes don't work for the New York Jets, all right? I don't know why you would want to bring in a quarterback coach or an offensive coordinator, all right? The thing the Jets need with this coaching staff, they need someone with experience on the offensive side of the ball or on the defensive side of the ball. Even look at Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, scheme as a head coach does not work. All right? So John DeFilippo, however you pronounce his name, you obviously cannot have someone with a quarterback coach. We're going to go through the same saga again. You can't have a quarterback coach running an entire offense. That's just not how it works. I will admit he did do a good job in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz, but I don't see him with a fit on this Jets offense, because these kind of schemes don't work for the New York Jets.
Well, I mean, that's also a fair point, David. Now, besides John DeFilippo, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right, so excuse me if I'm murdering that. Who would other targets be for the Jets offensive coordinator position? Because this is arguably the second most important position on this team besides the head coach. And I don't even know if we have one of those. So filling this offensive coordinator role correctly is going to be vital to this team's future. So who are you targeting, David, in your opinion?
Kyle, I would target someone, like I said, with experience in knowing the offensive side of the ball. So if anything, I'll probably target with someone like Mike McCoy, because he's had a great experience, not only just head coaching in general, but he's had a great offense with the Chargers. But it's a possibility, though, he would take Todd Bowles' job. So definitely look someone who can manage the offense right, because we have elite weapons with this offense. Emerging young talent, great wide receivers, great running backs. Hopefully a decent offensive line if they can get back on their feet. Find someone who can utilize it right. Find someone with experience. I'm not saying go out and get someone like Josh McDaniels type protege, because obviously that's not going to happen. But get someone who can run an offense well. Don't go for these retarded schemes.
Okay. Let's venture away from that. And I would definitely go with Mike McCoy. That's who I would go with. Like you said, he's an experienced offensive coordinator and head coach in this league. If there's one thing I'll give San Diego, they had a great offense almost every year. And you look at them for the past couple years, right? They've always had Phillip Rivers. He's been their main guy. But usually they have Danny Woodhead and Keenan Allen and Antonio Gates and Ladarius Green. They lost Ladarius Green in free agency. Antonio Gates was hurt for a good portion of the year, so they had to have a rookie in Hunter Henry set up. And then Danny Woodhead was out for the year in week 3. And then Keenan Allen was out for the year in, I believe, week 2. So they had a lot of starting guys who were supposed to play key roles in this offense not be able to play for the rest of the year, like since week 2. And then, he gets fired because of it. So I feel like that was actually a bad move by the Chargers in hindsight. And it would be great for the Jets to get an offensive mind like this who could properly use guys like Eric Decker, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Nunwa, Bilal Powell, and make this offense explosive no matter who the quarterback is. Because I don't know who our quarterback's going to be next year. I don't think anybody does. There are a slew of players that either suck or are mediocre, and that's about where we are right now. So we're going to need an offensive coordinator to change that up. But, that's just my opinion. There are other guys out there. I know there are also a lot of guys looking for the head coaching positions. So we'll see where that goes. All right, David, let's talk about this Jets-Bills game. I know that seems like a long time ago, but it was a pretty good win for the Jets. What were your thoughts about it?
Well, the Jets were going in there playing pretty much a clueless Bills team. Rex Ryan, Rob Ryan got fired, and they had their backup offensive coordinator I meant backup quarterback in E.J. Manuel playing that game. So this was a game that the Jets were due to win, especially for Ryan Fitzpatrick, since this was his last game as a Jet, even for someone like Darrelle Revis, which is possibly his last game as a Jet. But, the Jets did slaughter the Buffalo Bills, which I didn't expect coming. Lots of good games from Quincy Nunwa. Bilal Powell, once again, just showing off his speed, ran over 100 yards. And this is actually what I wanted to elaborate on is Bilal Powell. And I would definitely see that he would actually have enough potential and skill to be our number 1 running back for next season. So hopefully this next offensive coordinator we bring in sees the speed and the burst and the explosiveness that Bilal Powell provides to this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we saw a lot of really good young guys flourish throughout this game. Just to name a couple, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Nunwa, guys like that. At the end of the year now, since, we're officially in the offseason for the Jets, because obviously we're not in the playoffs. You can expect that. What were your initial thoughts, ending thoughts of the young guys to end up this year?
I got to agree, though. The young guys really flourish. Quincy Nunwa, Robbie Anderson, I definitely see him being a big contribution to the offense next season, especially Robbie Anderson, who is pretty much developed into a deep threat. And this is a reason why I would want the Jets to target someone like Tyrod Taylor with a big arm, because Robbie Anderson is a vertical deep threat that the Jets could have used a lot more in this season, as clearly Ryan Fitzpatrick was just missing him down the field. But regards to that, regards to Robbie Anderson, Quincy Nunwa too. If Eric Decker comes back, if Brandon Marshall comes back, I could definitely see Nunwa and Decker just switching on and off next season. We already elaborated on that in the offseason last year, but, I definitely would love to see what these young guys could do next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned Tyrod Taylor, and I would just like to say really quick, Tyrod Taylor has opted to do hernia surgery. And I don't know how the exact wording is in his contract, but I do know that if he were to get injured and to fail the physical, which he will take, I believe, on March 11th, they will be responsible for his remaining salary. And I don't know about you, but I'm not letting a guy go who is a good quarterback, and I'm already responsible for his remaining salary. So Tyrod Taylor may not even hit the market, it seems, right now. Now, I've heard that they may use attorneys to get out of this some way, because he has opted himself to take the surgery. This wasn't a absolutely needed surgery like an ACL or an Achilles or something like that. This is something he opted to do himself. But, still got to find a quarterback. So I guess we'll move on from that subject. And David, as we're talking about quarterbacks, is there anybody else besides Tyrod Taylor who we can really target?
I mean, we can't really target Tyrod Taylor. I mean, there are some potential free agents in the market. You know, pretty much another option I would love is Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, unfortunately, he'll probably go somewhere like Cleveland or San Francisco to develop there. But, you know, to the fact that he was learning behind probably the best of all time in Brady, I definitely think Garoppolo should deserve to come to the Jets if at all possible. But if not, this is where the 6th pick in the draft comes in. If we can't get a good quarterback and we're still stuck in this saga with Bryce Petty and Christian Hackenberg, you might as well just use your 6th pick on a quarterback in the draft. Find your franchise quarterback already, because I'm tired of this project quarterback nonsense. All right? Either draft your guy or sign your guy. This 2017 is a year for no excuses and no, it's hard not to curse, and no nonsense. All right? Because I'm sick and tired of the Jets just searching and searching and searching, you know, whether it's Band-Aids or whether it's quote-unquote quarterback projects. Find your guy, all right? If you want to go out and pay $15 million to Tyrod Taylor, who pretty much just done nothing but went off for the Bills, go do it. Go do it. Because I want to see some quarterback depth on this Jets team. If better yet, quarterback competition, all right? Because right now, we have one healthy quarterback on the roster since Bryce Petty is hurt, and we don't even know what these guys are capable of. Sign a couple of guys, whether it's drafting a quarterback or whether it's signing a quarterback, have quarterback competition. Battle it out for that roster spot. All right? That's what would make it not only more interesting, but I think it would be best beneficial for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, sticking with quarterbacks, Sunday was, you know, what we think, Ryan Fitzpatrick's last game in the New York Jets uniform. What are your thoughts on Fitzpatrick's stay with the Jets overall? Now, I know this year has definitely left a sour taste in our mouths, but you got to also think of last year. So, sum it up for us, David.
You know, signing Ryan Fitzpatrick last offseason, you know, I was actually wanting him to start over Geno Smith, and he did, and then he went off and threw for 31 touchdowns. Now, going into this contract stalemate with Ryan Fitzpatrick, however, finally signed right before training camp, and I had a little thought in my mind that was going to affect his playing, and by God, it did. You know, I definitely think that this contract stalemate should have never happened. If the Jets would have signed re-signed Ryan Fitzpatrick during that free agency period, and he would have showed up at OTAs, mini camps, everything, and not just training camp, then honestly, you got to give credit where credit is due, because Ryan Fitzpatrick came out there and played like a complete fraud. All right, and you have this guy Geno Smith out there who was pretty much just doing nothing but leading the team in the offseason, and Ryan Fitzpatrick just comes back and steals his job. So pretty much 2016 has just been a total letdown thanks to his total nonsense with the contract stalemate, with the money we gave him, bashing the organization, and just crappy, clueless throws and interceptions by this man. I'm glad he's gone, and let him go somewhere else, because there is a reason why he was a backup quarterback for reasons like this.
Yeah, absolutely, and I got to say, overall, for Fitzpatrick, it was average. It was average, and unfortunately, statistically, he's one of the Jets' best quarterbacks of all time when you really put it in perspective. But, you know, he's going to be the number 2 free agent for the quarterback position this year, which is kind of shocking in mind when you really think about it. But, you know, as much as we loved Fitzy last year, I mean, he showed his true colors this year. So I guess we just got to move on from him, because that seems to be what the Jets do with quarterbacks. We continue to flip and flop from them every other year, it seems. All right, we're going to go on to the next topic now, David, and that's going to be the draft. Let's talk about the draft, and this will probably be the biggest part of the show tonight. Me and you, or this is supposed to be me and Ben, but we're going to do it because you're just as good. We're going to identify the biggest needs that the Jets have, and we're going to look at the top prospects at that position. Are you ready, David?
Let's do it.
All right, so what would you say is the biggest Jets need?
Well, pretty much quarterback is the biggest need, but I as I would say, I would probably go on the defensive side of the ball and probably draft an edge rusher. And an edge rusher would be pretty well for the Jets. Get right at the quarterback easy, and hopefully we can draft someone like Tim Williams out of Alabama, or even maybe go on offensive line, because if we're gonna have a new quarterback come in next season, you gotta revamp your offensive line. You gotta revamp it good. So I would say the biggest Jets needs are the edge rusher and the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And, on the offensive line, it would definitely be the left tackle. And, personally, my 3 top left tackles are Garrett Boyles, Ryan Ramczyk, and Cam Robinson. And those are all very reachable at the number 6 pick. I don't think they deserve the number 6 pick. But if the Jets were desperate enough, I'm sure they would take them. And, other edge rushers besides Tim Williams, you look at a couple other Alabama linebackers who can definitely fit in there. You look at guys like Derek Barnett from Tennessee, guys like that. So there's definitely a way we can fill these. But let's talk about the quarterback position. David, who's your number 1 quarterback in this draft class?
Personally, I kind of wish someone like Deshaun Watson would be the number 1 quarterback prospect, since he is leading Clemson to the national title game. But, I kind of wish it was him. But, right now it's most likely Mitch Trubisky. But if the Jets were to draft a quarterback, I would hope it would be one of those two, Deshaun Watson or Mitch Trubisky.
So you're leaving out DeShone Kizer? Any particular reason?
Well, have you seen how Notre Dame's been playing?
Well, I wouldn't say that's all on DeShone Kizer, but he hasn't had a great year.
I'm not a big college football guy, but I know Notre Dame hasn't had a good year. DeShone Kizer is an elite quarterback, but there's definitely better in my mind.
Yeah, in mine, I would definitely say Mitch Trubisky. Even after his subpar bowl performance, which he only lost by a point by, he's still my number 1 by far in my mind. I don't think anybody's close at this point. I believe our good friend Matt Miller from Bleacher Report has the kid from Wyoming. His name is slipping me at this point, but I think he has him going like number 3 overall, and I'm kind of shocked because he's like my 6th overall quarterback. So I don't know what his reasoning is there. But, you look at other needs on this team. We're talking corners, safeties, even inside linebackers, because David Harris isn't going to be around for maybe even next year. He may not be here next year for all we know. So, David, who are your top inside linebackers for the draft?
Well, I'm looking at the draft class right now for the inside linebackers, and it looks like I would probably have to go with someone like either Reuben Foster from Alabama, or maybe even Zach Cunningham out of Vanderbilt. Big guys, fast in the 40-yard dash, can be great coverage against running backs too. I would definitely go with one of those 2 guys in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of really good linebacker prospects in this draft, and we even look at some hybrids like Raekwon McMillan from Ohio State or Jabril Peppers from Michigan, who can play safety, corner, and linebacker. There are some really talented guys in this draft class. If I had to give my top inside linebacker, it would probably be a guy from Alabama. What's his name?
Reuben Foster.
Yes, Reuben Foster. I feel like he has the most natural talent at the linebacker position. He's been a 4-year starter for Alabama. He's a senior now. The dude's just one of the better prospects in the draft this year. So I think he's just one of the best. Also, like I said, Raekwon McMillan, he's also another target that the Jets could be looking at. He knows Deron Lee pretty well. And Raekwon McMillan only started 1 year at Ohio State, and he's potentially going to be a top 20 pick. So there's definitely a lot of talent in this draft.
I definitely agree with you, Kyle, and hopefully the Jets use that 6th pick right. Someone on their biggest need, because that 6th pick can change your franchise And look what it did with Leonard Williams. And look what we did when we had a top pick in the draft and drafted Muhammad Wilkerson even. These guys can change your franchise, and they have. So just better go out there, use your sixth pick, use someone wisely, and hopefully finally get another game changer. Hopefully a quarterback even if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if we don't fill these things in the draft, we look at this free agent class, and it isn't a great free agent class. The number one quarterback in my mind would be Kirk Cousins, who is mediocre in my mind. I don't think he's worth the money that people are saying he is. I think it's just kind of ridiculous that people are saying he's worth this money. Now, let's go back to the needs of the Jets. Let's start with the left tackle position. Right now, I believe Andrew Whitworth would be the number one left tackle on the market. I mean, I'm going to take a look at some other guys who are there eventually, but Andrew Whitworth would definitely be that. Would you be interested in going after him?
Andrew Whitworth is he's a guy with great blocking. Any elite left tackle like this guy could be a great upgrade to the blind side of a quarterback. I would probably go for someone like him. He can block the quarterback's blind side pretty well, and if he can establish the run block for guys like Matt Forte and Bilal Powell, I would definitely go for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we look at over in the secondary at cornerback, guys like Tremaine Johnson, who are going to be available from the Los Angeles Rams. Would you be interested in going after them?
I would probably either go with Tremaine Johnson or Dre Kirkpatrick, two elite corners that can actually cover pretty well, big, strong, who can cover great receivers. Because if you look at what we have next year, we got a lot more elite receivers next year to deal with, like Julio Jones, like Demaryius Thomas, even Tyreek Hill's going to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy you have to look out for now.
Agreed. So find your corner that can compete with these receivers. And if it's Tremaine Johnson or Dre Kirkpatrick, in my mind, I think that would be the best too.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of ways for the Jets to fill these needs. And, right now, me and Ben have projected that the Jets will probably end up with about $50 million in cap space, just around there. So we do have some stuff to work with. And now also, David, the New York Jets home and away opponents came out earlier this week, and we're just going to talk about those for a little bit because it's not an easy schedule, if I'm going to be honest. Obviously, we have the Patriots, the Bills, and the Dolphins home and away opponents throughout the year. But also for our home opponents, we have the Jaguars, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Falcons, and the Panthers. And away, we have the Browns, the Broncos, Oakland, Tampa Bay, in New Orleans. So let's just talk about this, game by game, current rosters. Because obviously we don't know what's going to happen in the draft or free agency. And we'll avoid the in-division rivals because we always seem to get at least 3 of those games. So let's talk about the Jaguars game. Do you think the Jets can win that?
Which game are you talking about? I didn't listen to that.
The Jaguars game.
Actually, that was something I kind of wanted to talk about with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars, they were expected to be an elite team this year. Unfortunately, they were not. But they have a lot of young guys emerging. I mean, they have guys like Prince Mukamara. They have Jalen Ramsey emerging. Dante Fowler. Even Chris Ivory will probably be returning to MetLife Stadium to be versing the Jets defense. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars are not as they're not as competitive as you think they are, but if we can play our cards right, I think we can definitely beat them again.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the San Diego Chargers now? They don't have a head coach. We don't know if they'll have a stadium because they might be moving to LA, and we don't know if they'll have their quarterback.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens next season.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs, that'll be a tough game. Atlanta Falcons, that'll be a tough game. Carolina Panthers, that'll be a tough game. And we'll go over We'll go over the away opponents after this. We got our first caller of the night, David. That is none other than our good friend Ryan. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing quite well. Just picked up a new phone.
Oh, nice. Well, you kept the same phone number because you're still in our system.
Yeah, I did. This my other phone just broke out of nowhere.
Oh, well, kind of sounds like our quarterback.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So.
All right, Ryan. What do you want to talk about tonight, or do you want to just go? Do you want us to just go ahead and fire some questions at you?
You guys can just fire up some questions.
All right. So I don't know if you're aware of all the firings, but let's just talk about Chan Gailey's quote-unquote retirement. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he was pushed out the door. Somebody had to be the fall guy, obviously, after this type of season. I wouldn't put all the blame on him. I thought he actually did, very well last year, and this year I wouldn't blame him entirely because of how bad the quarterback play was. But like I said, somebody had to be the downfall guy, and Todd Bowles is too close with Casey Rogers, so he wasn't going to fire his boy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that definitely seems to be the case. And both David, Ben, and I agree on that. What about some of the other coordinators, like Kevin Pastula, the quarterback coach, or Peppers, the outside linebacker coach? What about them? Do you feel like they deserve to be fired based on the production of their, said positions?
I would say yes, especially Pepper Johnson. I mean, he was being kind of a douche to the media, and then the defensive line outside of Leonard Williams didn't really produce this year, which was a very stacked, very talented group, which should have been the best in the league. So they definitely underperformed. Obviously, the quarterback play wasn't good, so he had to go. I just feel like the whole team just didn't live up to the potential they had. So when that type of stuff happens, then coaches are going to be fired. And obviously, some of the executing the game plans, there was so much, especially on defense, miscommunication. So that's also not even just on Rodgers. That's also on the positional groups. They're not being, obviously the players aren't being taught correctly, or there's obviously there's something wrong. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think Todd Bowles should have been fired? I mean, if things weren't being executed properly.
Yeah, I do think he should have been fired. I do like to give usually a coach 3 years, but Todd Bowles really hasn't showed me anything in his first 2 years to make me believe in him for year 3. He hasn't gotten better in clutch situations, especially time management. That's also been a major issue from year 1 to year 2. He definitely hasn't improved at all. I mean, that's kind of sad. Hopefully this offseason he does, but that again he showed us nothing that he's going to. But I've seen our schedule next year, like you guys talking about, and to bring in a new coach. I know you shouldn't be looking at the schedule because things change, obviously, and injuries happen. But if you bring in a new coach with the team we have right now, which isn't as good as we thought it was, and we'll have a lot of veterans going, we're looking at a complete rebuild, or at least a lot of young players playing. So I don't think that's an ideal position to bring a coach in. So I'm not really sure, but it probably is good for 1 more year. I do like stability, but then again, I didn't really mind if he was. I honestly wanted him to get fired, but he didn't really impress me.
Yeah, I totally agree. David, why don't you ask Ryan some questions?
Yeah, Ryan. Thank you for calling in tonight, man. I always love talking to you. You're a great fan, and yeah, I agree with you. Todd Bowles should have been gone. Zombie Nation is returning into 2017, and unfortunately, with this schedule, which I think is worse, I honestly just have a little confidence in Bowles at this point because he's just going to come back with that same mentality, make clueless calls such as not going for 2, such as punting the game away on 4th and 2 when you're down by 11, such as not using your timeouts correctly, and little discipline, little accountability, crappy time management, game management. Do you have confidence that Todd Bowles can rebuild this team, since there was a press conference out there from Woody Johnson that he believes that Todd Bowles can lead the Jets to the Super Bowl? Do you think that he could possibly do that with the opponents we have for next season?
Well, let me just say this. I'd be really excited if he did, but As of this moment, I would say no.
I think we all would.
Yeah, we'd all be happy as Jets fans. That would be something. But no, he really hasn't showed us anything that he's going to be able to completely rebuild. And he might not even get the time to. If he did execute a plan, how the New York media is and the fans. We want to win now. Unfortunately, that might mean to get rid of some of the veterans. But Todd Bowles is definitely going to be. He's on the hot seat already. Coming into next year, he's going to be fighting for his job. So there's definitely a couple elements that go into it. But I'm not really confident. I have no confidence that he'll lead us to a Super Bowl. I don't think he'll be a head coach for us in maybe one more year, but I don't think he'll be a head coach for us, in 2-3 years down the line. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he definitely improves in every, category, especially time management and timeouts and stuff. But, he made literally no improvement at all, and he might have even got worse in the second year, which is, not a good sign.
Yeah, David, before you go ahead and ask your second question for Ryan, let me just voice my opinion on it. Ryan, I think you hit this on the nose here, and Todd Bowles has regressed immensely in my mind. He has shown that when you are supposed to improve, you can't. And that's like the moral of my life at this point, is I've had to sit and watch this dude for 16 games kick field goal after field goal when we're down by 18 points and we need to score a touchdown, and he just, I'll trust the defense, we'll get a turnover. We'll get the ball back. I trust the offense. He has no idea what his team is capable of, and he has a blind trust in this team. And I'm not even talking about the time management or the execution in the locker room that he needs to have to put the necessary game plans together before and during the game. And he's yet to showcase that he can do that. And he wants to continue to be a head coach in this league while we're firing guys who actually do their job in Chan Gailey instead of guys like Casey Rogers and Todd Bowles who have been shellacking on the sidelines for the last 2 years, skating by with the talent that they have. And that's just my opinion on it. All right, David, you could go ahead and ask your question.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I agree 100% because it was highly torturous just watching Bowles just become a lonely zombie for 16 games. And it was a rough time. And
what was that, David? Was that like some vocals right there? I thought you were a DJ, not a vocalization guy.
Kyle, just relax. All right, I'm trying to be in a professional manner. But anyhow, unfortunately, Zombie Nation has returned. Now, I actually kind of wanted to move on to veterans. Now, honestly, I know there are going to be veterans that are going to be gone, and we're going to have a good amount of cap space next season. Now, which veterans would you keep for next season?
Well, that's a tough question because, you could literally dump almost all of them. But, I would like to see Brandon Marshall come back. I know, him and Sheldon have problems, but, Sheldon's obviously going to be gone in the offseason. So, I like Marshall. I think he still got it. He's definitely not going to be as good as he was in 2015. That was a very spectacular season, but I still think he could be a number one receiver in this league. He said he would take a pay cut to come here, to stay here. I wouldn't mind seeing David Harris stay. That's a 50-50 for me. Obviously, he's very bad in coverage, but I just love him as a player. He's been here for, it seems like forever. So, I love David Harris, but, that's 50-50 for me. But, that's basically it. I want Revis gone. He has definitely not lived up to expectations. I do not want to try him out at safety. Who else is there? I would keep Decker as well. I don't even think Decker will be ready for the beginning of the season. So, he had 2 surgeries. And that's basically it. I would dump majority of the veterans.
Yeah, man, and I actually 100% agree with you on Brandon Marshall. I actually would love for him to be back. Despite the situation with Sheldon Richardson, I actually think that he's part of the reason why these young guys have developed. Because of his leadership, because of his passion, because of his heart for this team. He loves playing as a New York Jet, and he may be an aging wide receiver, but he definitely still has it. I don't know why Jet fans are on this nonsense that Brandon Marshall should be gone. I would love for him to come back next season and come out guns a-blazing with Eric Decker coming back. Decker said that he's not missing a moment of 2017 because he wants to be back on the field too with the guys and, young talent emerging. Now, in regards to David Harris, another great veteran for these young guys, Darren Lee, Jordan Jenkins, Lorenzo Malden, these linebackers for their first year, well, Lorenzo Malden was in his second, I honestly thought they played well. And David Harris, he's a great leader, and coming from one of the Jets' greatest linebackers of all time, the linebackers did have a lot of production. Now, my final question for you, to you, Ryan, since majority of these veterans could be gone, who could you see the Jets drafting with their 6th pick overall? Because the 6th pick is a player that is a pick that should change your franchise. Because, we've done it with Leonard Williams, and we've done a lot of it with top picks. Now, who do you see the Jets drafting at number 6?
Well, personally, I want Tim Williams or Jamal Adams. Tim Williams is a pass rusher from Alabama, and Jamal Adams is from LSU, safety. Those are the 2 guys I want to target, but I want to see what we do in free agency first, because that's going to be because what we do in free agency, then whatever we're missing, we'll take at 6. But I want like you said, like impact players who are going to change the franchise around, like Leonard Williams. And if I had to pick, if I was a GM, and I would take Jamal Adams at 6.
Yeah, man, I agree. Since Marcus Gilchrist, who had a big injury, and he could possibly be gone next year, it's nice to actually have.
David, that's just how bad he was. It wasn't.
Yeah, Gilchrist is gone.
Yeah. Gilchrist is most likely gone. So, put someone young to play next to Calvin Pryor, and you got yourself an elite safety core. And, Jamal Adams could be a good fit, but. Oh boy. Hold
on, David. All right. I know you have this little bromance for Calvin Pryor here. He's not even close to elite, okay? I just want to put that out there. He's a box safety who can't cover, isn't physical enough to cover above average tight ends in the league.
Kyle, we all thought that Calvin Pryor was going to have a breakout year, all right? But listen, obviously it wasn't his year. But listen,
it hasn't been his career.
There's a reason, Kyle. There's a reason why we drafted him. Oh, all right. What did you think in 2015, though? What did you think seeing him? And you thought he was going to break out next season?
I thought it was a huge improvement, but it was still average.
Okay, Kyle.
All right, Ryan. Well, it seems that it isn't just me and Ben who argue. I thought that was just a me and him thing, but I guess it's a me and everybody. All right, Ryan. Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you go ahead and shout out your Twitter, because I'm trying to quote you right now, and I can't remember your Twitter handle.
All right, no problem. You guys can follow me at NY_JetStation98. Thank you guys for having me on, and have a great night.
All right, man. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, guys.
And that was Ryan. Why don't you guys definitely go give him a follow. Again, his Twitter handle is NY_JetsNation98. And, David, we're going to keep pumping along because we got some more callers on the line. And our next caller is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle from AFC East Bros. Kyle, what's going on, my man?
Hey, how's it going, gentlemen? Hey, gentlemen, just a disclaimer. I am working out at the gym currently, so if it gets too noisy, just hang up on me. I don't want to mess up your show.
No, it's no problem, man. Games for days. What's going on?
Not too much. I was just overhearing the last conversation, and if I understood it correctly, Mr. David, Gangrene David, who I know has a love affair with Calvin Pryor, I guess because Calvin Pryor showed him some love and took some pictures with him and signed some autographs and gave him an interview for his show. But, David, man, you can't let your fandom and your like for a player cloud your judgment about how good or bad a player is, man. You can't do it.
Okay, Kyle, I get where you're coming from, but, that doesn't mean Calvin Pryor is a bad safety overall. I love watching.
He truly is.
Well, David,
oh my God.
David, here, I want you to produce your proof as to why he's a, let's say, good safety, because you're almost calling him borderline elite. So let's be fair and let's say
I'm not saying he's an elite safety. But he's definitely got it.
I know that. Tell me why he's a good safety then.
Oh, listen, if you saw what he did in 2015, he's a hard hitter.
But that wasn't this year. That wasn't this year. He couldn't produce it for a second year, David.
Okay, everybody has a bad year, but, he's going to go into next season, and if he breaks out next season, you two will be apologizing. Okay, so don't immediately doubt one player on one bad year, because 2015, it was a huge improvement, and we had high hopes for Calvin Pryor going into this season. Okay, so he had a bad year, but, a lot of fans love him, and a lot of fans love what he does with his team. So you know what? I have faith in Calvin Pryor for next season, because, he's one of my favorite defensive players. He may have had an off year, but that doesn't mean he can improve into next year.
Hey,
well,
David,
I gotta correct you again, David. That's 2 bad years because he had a horrific rookie season. And you want to say that he has a good 2015, David? I mean, he's a very limited player. This guy is not only small, but he's not even that athletic. I encourage you to go look at his combine measurables on mockdraftable.com. He scored poorly in pretty much every single area, and then we see those poor skills translate onto the field. I mean, this guy, he cannot cover worth a lick. Don't let him defending J.J. Watt in the end zone against Houston cloud your judgment about what this guy can do in coverage as a safety. Because Fahey was on my show, and I know you're a YouTuber, David, so you can go and look at the clip ourselves. But this guy, when he has to drop back and retreat in coverage, when he's playing back, he just has no sense of where to go, and he's got no range to get there. We pulled up a clip of Sammy Coates. Sammy Coates, who's an extremely raw receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, runs a simple 9 route. Now, Marcus Williams gets smoked, but Calvin Pryor's just sitting there lollygagging, has no clue where to go, and he doesn't even get anywhere close to providing safety help over the top. Not to mention, he can't shadow tight ends. Travis Kelce, who's a big old tight end, probably has 40, 50 pounds on Calvin Pryor. He outran Pryor with the ball in his hand. And if you know anything about playing football, when you're running with the football, it slows you down. The dude, he's a very, very limited player. He can make a nice hit in the box, but that's about it. Even around the line of scrimmage, let's say if they throw a swing pass to a running back, and he's got to start running laterally, you'll see him miss a lot of tackles trying to tackle a running back on a swing pass.
I get where you're coming from, but remember in his rookie year, look who we had around him in his rookie year.
No.
What do you mean, no?
David, no, this is bullcrap. Just because he sucks doesn't mean that you can blame it on everybody else. I'm
not blaming it on everybody else. I can only imagine how when he actually played well in 2015. It wasn't just J.J. Watt. Remember, it was that pass breakup to Odell. It was that pass breakup to Rashard Matthews. He did a lot of production on defense in that 2015
David,
season.
You know what he did?
Kyle.
David, you know what he did in those 2 instances that you just named? He hit the dude really hard. And that's what he's good at. And that seems to be all
that's one of the points of a safety.
But if he can't cover, because he can't hit a guy at the 5-yard line.
Oh, my God. This is so pointless.
Your argument is
pointless. Can we move on to another safety talk? This is another thing I heard you guys mention, so I feel like it's worth giving my input on it, and that's the whole Darrelle Revis moving to safety talk. And let's make no mistake about it. This has been talked about since Revis signed on the dotted line with the Jets, not this past offseason, but the offseason prior to that. He was going to be 30 going into the season with the Jets. Now, that's old for a corner. So there was already talk before he even played another snap with the Jets on his second or third contract with the Jets about him moving to safety. And I've always denied it since the first day that talk came about. Never thought that he had the skill set to play safety. And here's why. When Revis was good, when he was at his best, what made him good? What made him good was his ability to not even let receivers off the line of scrimmage. Rex Ryan would talk about his Pittsburgh days, and he would say, Revis, he wouldn't even let guys off the line of scrimmage. Revis was such a good press corner. And he was so good at using the sideline to his advantage. Pushing a receiver out to the sideline and basically, just with technique, Xing out a receiver. Now, the thing is, when you're playing safety, you can't utilize the sideline like that. You can't jam a guy off the line of scrimmage because you're playing back. And we've all seen how slow Revis looks this year. Now, he's going to play free safety because he's not going to play strong safety. That's Calvin Pryor's position. And strong safety is going to require you to tackle more. We all know Revis wanted no part of tackling this year. So he'd have to play free safety. But to play free safety, you need to be rangy. You need to be able to get from one side of the field to the other side of the field. And Revis doesn't have that. We've seen guys outrun him all the time. Just think about Marquise Goodwin, who is admittedly one of the fastest receivers in the NFL, but he still doesn't have great route running. But he easily outran Revis because Revis is just so slow at this point in his career. And he's never played there before. So just for many reasons, this guy would not be a good safety. The Jets shouldn't even think about it. If they do, it's going to be a big mistake.
Sorry to cut you off there, David, but yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you, and I think David was going to say virtually the same thing. Now, I believe Ben found something on Twitter today from a pretty solid source saying that, if Darrelle Revis didn't take a pretty large pay cut, which he's never been known to do, that the Jets are going to move on for him. I don't know what the legitimacy behind it is, but he is a verified reporter, so I guess we'll have to take it with at least some credibility. Now, do you see that happening yourself, Kyle? Do you see Darrelle Revis hitting the open market?
Yeah, because when has he ever taken a big pay cut? The only thing the guy's ever done is ask for more money and more money and more money when he had 3 years. 3 years left on his contract. And guys, I cannot think of another single example in recent NFL history where a player with 3 years left on their contract was holding out for a new one. I mean, I don't know if you guys can think of one, but I sure as heck can't. So why on earth would we have any reason to believe that this guy is going to just all of a sudden take less money? And Revis, he's so money hungry to the point where his agents, Feinsod and Schwartz, who got him so much money over the years, he's now in a legal battle with them over, the whole these green tea drinks that they had an endorsement with. Apparently Revis is not giving them the proper percentage or whatever that he promised that he would give them, or Revis didn't know that there was a certain clause in the contract when he signed it. But the point is that he's in a legal battle with the guys that made him so much money over the years, that were so loyal to him, that negotiated the best contracts that corners have ever gotten. He's fighting with them over money. Why the hell would he give the Jets a discount? I don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll be down arguably our best player of all time this offseason. And now comes the question, Kyle, who are we going to replace him with? We look at the free agents class, we see guys like Tremaine Johnson, the main headliners at the corner, and when we look at the draft, guys like Tease Tabor or I believe Marlon Humphreys, is that his name, from Alabama? I believe you spoke of him last week. They're the number one corners in this class. So do you see us definitely pursuing or drafting either of those individuals?
Well, one thing I don't like doing is I don't like speaking about things that I don't know enough about. So for me to go and tell you, Tremaine Johnson this or A.J. Boye that, the fact of the matter is I don't watch enough Texan games, definitely not enough Rams games, to really be able to comment on that. I don't know enough about those guys. And just on the surface of it, like Stephon Gilmore is a corner that I know a lot about. And Stephon Gilmore's a pretty good corner. He's a very up-and-down corner, kind of like Cromartie, but I would say more physical and better overall than Cromartie. But he wants top 5 money. And the Jets, in their cap situation, they have no business, because they're not in win-now mode, they're in rebuild mode, going out and signing a guy like that, even though they definitely need a corner. There's no doubt about it. But that's just not the direction they need to go in right now. So whatever the bargain, second and third wave of free agents that you could get, you got to be looking at some guys in those range. And honestly, the draft guys, I mean, I'll get into that in the next couple months because I haven't even gotten close to getting there. So you guys will probably know more about those guys than me.
Yeah. Kyle, let's talk about some of the guys who were laid off this week from the Jets. Let's start with Chan Gailey. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think I'm on the same boat as you, Fahey. I don't know where David stands on that, but I think it was kind of a force out. Chan Gailey loves football. I know he said it was a difficult season for him, but I think also just a couple weeks ago he was hinting at possibly, returning for next season. But, they needed to find a scapegoat, and the fact of the matter is you can't just fire a bunch of position coaches and think that that's going to satisfy the mass public. No, a big-time name, a coordinator needs to go. And we all know that Todd Bowles, he's never, ever coached with Chan Gailey prior to the Jets. Casey Rogers, on the other hand, he's had a long-standing relationship with. So naturally it makes more sense that he would keep his boy around. other than Gailey, even though you could very well argue that Chan Gailey was the best coach on this staff. I think that's a very fair argument. Patullo, I mean, people are a little upset about it, like, oh, well, Hackenberg's going to have another quarterbacks coach, which that kind of does suck because that guy needs a lot of work, and it would be nice to have continuity. But what if it's bad continuity? Like, Patullo was a wide receivers coach, and he did absolutely nothing to develop Bryce Petty and some of these other guys that we had in here. So I'm not upset with him at all. Marcel Shipp, I guess people are saying 2,000-yard rushers. I don't think he did a bad job, but again, you needed a scapegoat. And Pepper Johnson, when you look at the way this D-line with that talent played this year, I had no problem with letting him go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, David, why don't you go ahead and fire some questions at Kyle before we let him go?
Well, yeah, Kyle, I 100% agree with you. With an elite defensive line like that, there is absolutely no way that they should have gotten shut down like that. And I kind of think that the coaching from Pepper Johnson could have been one of the reasons. Now, with the offensive coordinator, of course, Chan Gailey was forced out the door, which was kind of unfortunate because I said earlier in the show, he had his good, he had his bad. The young talent really emerged because of him. But, I kind of think he had a little bit of weak points with regards to running backs and tight ends, how they were used, whatnot. Now, I actually want to go to one of those players, Bilal Powell. Kyle, the guy has really progressed. Possibly one of the best players we've had on offense all year. Do you think Bilal Powell has done enough to be our number one running back for next season?
Absolutely, because, the only way he wouldn't be is if you draft the top guy like Fournette or Cook at the 6th overall pick, which personally I think is a mistake. I don't think either of them is good as Zeke Elliott. And usually when you draft the running back that early, it never really pays dividends. And we'll see how good Zeke Elliott is in the long run. We love him now, but, 4 or 5 years from now when he's got a lot of tread on the tires, is he going to be the same player? So that remains to be seen. But Powell should definitely be the guy. He's clearly better than Forte. And really, you should not get anyone else in free agency to replace him. He's been underutilized really since his second year in the league. His first year, he struggled mightily. He basically got very, very little reps, and when he did come in, he had a goal line fumble in 2011. I don't know if you guys remember it, against Denver in a Thursday night game where we lost to Tim Tebow. And if Bilal Powell had not fumbled that ball, we could have very well won that game. But anyway, he came into his second year, his sophomore season, and he tore it up in training camp. There was not a day that went by that the beat reporters weren't raving about how good and how improved Bilal Powell was. Yet, year in, year out since that point, the Jets never seemed to utilize him all that much. But whenever he did come in, he's constantly falling forward for yards. He's constantly catching passes out of the backfield. He always looked good. They just never gave him the reps to really, get the offensive production that he really deserved. The biggest question with him, guys, is he's a smaller running back, 204 pounds, and he's missed several games throughout his career despite having very limited touches. That is a bit alarming. He's a smaller guy who accumulates injuries. He missed 5 games last year. We all know how much our offense struggled without him. Many people said, listen, if we have him week 17 up in Buffalo, that game could be a very, very different story because our offense is firing on all cylinders the prior 5 games with him. So there's no doubt he should be the number one running back. But with that being said, you shouldn't give him the amount of touches that you were giving Forte early in this year because that's the way that you will run him into the ground and get him injured.
Yeah. Kyle, and I agree with you 100%. And because if you look at Matt Forte, the way he was being utilized this year, they were running him up the middle way too much. And if you heard what I said earlier in the show about how he played in Chicago, which is what made him an elite running back, which is the fact that he had that same style that Bilal Powell had, well, similar in a way, with catching passes out of the backfield, running wheel routes, is what made him an elite back in Chicago. But there is no doubt in my mind that Bilal Powell can be the number one running back for the Jets. He's younger, he's faster, he's stronger, and not to mention he's been on the team longer. Now, moving on to another player who the Jets picked up midseason and who Chan Gailey did not use as often, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. What do you see out of him coming into next season?
In terms of receiving, he looked like the best receiving tight end that we had on the roster, but that's not saying much. I might be able to step in at tight end for the Jets and perform better than any of those guys. We saw the drop balls. We didn't really see the run blocking that you'd like. I think he's worthy of keeping around on the roster just when you compare him to what else that we have. But honestly, guys, I really didn't see much from him. I know he's big and everything, and he had the early draft status, but, you know, he's worth bringing into training camp, that's for sure. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and I agree with you 100%. You know, I definitely would love to see what he could do for next season. Hopefully the next offensive coordinator who comes in can possibly use them right. Now, actually, that would be my final question tonight to you, Mr. Kyle Smith. What would you want to see out of the offensive coordinator for the Jets who would come into next season?
Well, I know that they mentioned that they want to see balance. I do think balance is a surefire way to win in the NFL, especially when you don't have a good quarterback. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Chan Gailey has always favored the passing attack. And, you know, when you have a quarterback as bad as we do, and make no mistake about it, we do have a bad quarterback, whoever it's going to be, unless it's somehow Tyrod Taylor. You know, you can't pass the ball that much. But Chan Gailey, despite the fact that we had poor quarterback play all year, just passed the ball way too much. So I'd like to see a guy that would have more balance. You know, you look at the Patriots, they've ran the ball a lot this year with LeGarrette Blount, and their offense looks damn good, even though they have the best quarterback or the second best quarterback in the league, if you want to say Aaron Rodgers is the best. Balance is always a good recipe for winning, especially in late December and January playoff games. So whoever that is, I honestly have no idea who that could be. The name, even the guy that we wanted to get, they denied an interview for us. So no names are really popping out to me. Personally, I wanted Bowles fired so that we could get Kyle Shanahan. I love his play designs. If you ever watch any clips of Falcons games, you just have to watch the way that he schemes. Yeah. I mean, it's every place that this guy has went. He made the offense in Cleveland with Brian Hoyer at quarterback look somewhat comparable. He made, when he was out in Washington with his father, RG3 had by far his best season ever. Now we're seeing what's happening with the Falcons. Matt Ryan is not a top 5 quarterback, but he's playing like one this year. And all those people that study, like Kean Fahey, your long-lost cousin, Kyle, he said that the biggest reason why Matt Ryan has succeeded is because of Kyle Shanahan's play designs. And I see these play designs, and he just manages to get guys wide open that pretty much any quarterback could make those throws. So I really wanted for us to give him a run at head coach, but we kept Bowles, so that dream has gone. But to answer your question, I know it's a long-winded answer, just a guy that has more of a balance between run and pass, because obviously I think we have sufficient run blocking and sufficient running backs to get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kyle, well, we know you're a busy man, and we'd like to thank you so much for coming on and offering your own Jet Take.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. And listen, just what we were saying before on Twitter, listen, if you didn't delete the video, I'm going to take your word for it. I think you're a man of integrity. It took some balls to even just post that, then my bad. Ben said he didn't delete it, so I'll just chalk it up to a technological error, and there's my apology for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's no problem, and if I was going to delete it, I wouldn't have posted it in the first place. So I'll just leave it at that. All right, Kyle, thanks for calling in, man. Oh, but give out all your Twitter and stuff before you go, because you do a great thing with your brother.
Yeah, so our show is AFC East Bros. We talk about the entire division. We're on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, all that kind of stuff. And thanks for your time. And, again, the apology again. And, David, you have a good night, man.
Yeah, have a good night, Kyle. Thanks for coming on. Love talking Jets with you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Take care.
All right, and once again, that was Kyle from AFC East Bros. You should definitely go check out his show. It's on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and his Twitter is at AFC East Bros. So just go ahead and give him a follow, because obviously he's a very knowledgeable Jet fan. David, you sound a little depressed. Did we put you down a little too much with Calvin Pryor?
No. Listen, you guys have your own opinions, and you guys are fellow Jet fans, so I definitely 100% respect your opinions on Calvin Pryor. Everyone's got their own opinion, so I'm not upset. You guys do what you need to do and give out all your blistering takes, what you think is best for the team.
You still sound a little depressed, David. I'm not going to lie, and I kind of feel bad now. But I don't. So we're going to move on, David. And, David, what do you want to talk about, man? Because, these callers can wait on the line, and we've did back-to-back callers. What do you want to talk about? We basically covered every topic. Is there anything you want to cover throughout the year?
Well, actually, I kind of want to let out my trivia question of the night, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, I forgot you had one of these. Okay, yeah. Oh, by the way, folks, for those who didn't get the memo last week, David is now our primetime producer. Not sure if he's better than Kevin yet. He's only like 2 weeks in.
No.
But David will be doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work for us. And obviously we're going to have him on the show every week as a guest caller. And now he's going to give us a trivia question with every call. We found that to be a pretty good idea. So, all right, David, hit me with it. And for those who are wondering, no, I am not Googling this. And just so David knows, I'm going to turn on and put on my camera right now so David knows. All right, David, you see my hands, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Go ahead and ask me the question.
All right, so I'm gonna start out a little bit easy.
You have a couple?
No, I only have this one, but I'm gonna start out easy, but it's gonna get harder and harder and harder.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, in 1969, with the Jets' only Super Bowl win, the New York Jets played the Baltimore Colts, and they ended up winning that Super Bowl with Joe Namath. What was the final score of that game?
17-6.
You were close, but the answer was 16-7.
Oh God, dyslexia. Dang it. Oh wow, I feel really dumb now. All right, well that was actually a pretty good question. That's it. That needed some Jets knowledge to definitely answer there, and I'm going to shut off my camera now because I have a pretty ugly face. Man, I can't believe I got that wrong. Wow. I should probably be disowned as a Jets fan. All right, well, besides that, David, anything else you want to talk about?
Not really.
Nothing you want to talk about? Nothing whatsoever? Well, how about this? Let's do some hypotheticals right now. Let's play the hypothetical game. This is also something we've been working on behind the scenes. I guess we'll introduce it now. David, let me just explain it to you real quick. I'll give you some hypothetical scenarios. It can either be free agency, the draft, coaching decisions, stuff like that. You ready?
Let's go.
All right, hypothetically, say the Jets trade Sheldon Richardson. What would you want in return?
Unfortunately, the Jets did not trade Sheldon Richardson like we wanted him to, but, if we were to trade him, I would probably either go for an offensive lineman or maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick for him.
Really? 3rd or 4th round pick? See, I was hoping for a 2nd or a 1st. Now, I discussed this with Ben the other day, and I wanted to tweet this out. Well, how about we trade Sheldon and a 2nd for a 1st round pick? Do you think that would fly?
2nd and 1st? Well, the fact that you want to trade defensive lineman who has pretty much regressed this year and has had off-the-field issues, I don't think anyone would probably take a 1st or 2nd round pick for that.
Really? You don't think they would take a Pro Bowl defensive end who hasn't got a big contract yet and a 2nd round pick for a 1st round pick?
Oh, and a 2nd round pick included?
Yeah.
But well, the fact that we have a high 2nd round pick this year, I probably would.
All right, that's fair enough. Hypothetically, say that we fired Todd Bowles earlier this week. Who would have you replaced him with?
Bill Belichick. No, I'm just kidding. I wish, but unfortunately that would never happen. But
that was terrible timing, David.
No, but anyhow, this defensive scheme of Todd Bowles, it never works. It never worked. He was clearly the defensive coordinator, but his head coaching skill didn't work this year. So, like I said, it's all about the experience you have at coach. What you've done as a head coach in your head coaching career. So go for someone like Mike McCoy.
Okay, well, that's kind of an oddball. He's definitely an offensive mind. Hypothetically, say that Ryan Fitzpatrick played at the level that he did the year before. would the Jets have made the playoffs?
Well, it probably would have, if he did play at the level that, that's a tough one. I would probably have to say it would have been better, but I don't think they would have made the playoffs.
So you think that Ryan Fitzpatrick just couldn't get it done for the Jets, basically? He couldn't get us to the playoffs?
No. He couldn't do it in 2015, where he had a career year, where his receivers had a career year, where the players around him had career years, sight set on playoff level. But nope, I don't think he could have done it at all. Not in my mind. Even though I did say he could have been a potential Super Bowl run, but that was the optimism talking. That there was nothing wrong with believing in your team, but I guess look where that got me, a freaking 5-11 debacle of a year. But it happens.
All right, well, David, that was it for the hypothetical game. I'm going to go on a little rant right now, so you can do what you do. You can just do whatever you want right now. Maybe go on Twitter, subscribe to the feed, because I have a beef right now with Manish Mehta. David, this was released about 4 minutes ago, this article, so this is going to be pretty current. This is about as most current you can get. This is the article from Manish Mehta from the New York Daily News, and it's all about Christian Hackenberg and how apparently the title of it says, "He will never make it," quote unquote. That is the title of the article about Christian Hackenberg, that arguably the number one, call him media personality on the New York Twitter stage is, promoting right now. This is what he's promoting. Let me just read some of these quotes from you. Maccagnan might be pleased with some of the younger pieces that he's assembled, but there's no denying that he's no closer to finding a franchise signal caller than he was when he took over for his disgraced predecessor. Now, also, he calls John Idzik a disgraced predecessor, but I believe he wrote an article about a week ago on how it's Jets fans' fault that John Idzik's gone and that he had a plan. But now he wants to call him a disgraced predecessor, so I guess he's just switching opinions currently. The Jets have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL, he proclaims. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but, I guess that's the truth in ways. At least the hapless Cleveland Browns have the hope of landing Patriots quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo in a trade. Maccagnan can wax poetic about his rookie offensive lineman, cornerback, and receiver until the cows come home, but it matters little if he can land the guy who plays the single most important position in team sports. Now, I find this all to be true, but what I will say yet, and I've been a critic of Christian Hackenberg, I'm not going to lie, but, I haven't been on this level. Christian Hackenberg hasn't even played a real NFL snap yet. He hasn't even really got a full training camp of reps. How are you going to judge him as not being able to play yet? I mean, we could sit around all day and do this. I mean, really. And then there are fans who truly buy into this. Now, like I said, I have been critical of Hackenberg and that his development is not to where we want him to be. And, arguably that may be why Kevin Patullo was fired. Maybe we did not see the development that we wanted out of Christian Hackenberg and Bryce Petty, but still, I don't think there's room to write this article quite yet. And now he brings up general managers who have done it right. The Eagles general manager, Howie Roseman. But, he says he may have plenty of holes to fill, but at least he's found the most important piece in Carson Wentz. So basically, what Manish Mehta is promoting is, hey, if you can sell the farm to get your quarterback and hurt the team for the rest of the years, well, you may have your guy. Do it then. That's what he's promoting right there in the Eagles. Because the Eagles, besides Carson Wentz, their franchise is basically in a downward spiral. They're not in the playoffs for like the third year straight. Their head coach is as clueless as ours, and they're just not heading in a good direction. I don't know how many picks they traded away to get up to the pick to get Carson Wentz, but I know it had to be a lofty amount. And then he brings up Colts GM Ryan Grigson, the worst GM in football. Should give half his paycheck to Andrew Luck, who single-handedly has kept him from getting the act. Yeah, that's absolutely true. They gave up the farm to Andrew Luck. It paid off. But, at the end of the day, besides Andrew Luck, who do they have? T.Y. Hilton? That's about it. That team's not very talented. I mean, Ryan Kelly, the center from Alabama, who they drafted last year, they have about 3 guys who have bright futures. Well, Andrew Luck's already here, and I guess T.Y. Hilton's already here, but Manish Mehta's just, he's not giving Christian Hackenberg a chance. And what makes this worse is that Jet fans buy into this. Like, Manish Mehta has been at every single practice behind the scenes. He's been there every day. Oh, I know Christian Hackenberg can't hit the ocean. That's basically what Manish Mehta is just proclaiming right now. I don't understand it, and just read some of the comments. On this article itself, Jet fans actually buy into this dude, and this is somebody who just doesn't really get it. And he says that Geno Smith should be leading a Pee-wee football team. Geno Smith's the best quarterback on the roster. I'll go out and say it right now. He's better than Fitzpatrick. He's better than Petty. And seeing as we haven't seen Christian Hackenberg yet, he's got to be better than Hackenberg. But yet he still says that he should lead a Pee-wee football team and that Fitzpatrick is a lot better. How does this dude have a job? Come on, these are just terrible takes from Manish Mehta. These are terrible opinions from him. Now, David, I don't know if you caught any of that, but I just went on a huge rant about Manish Mehta and his terrible article that he just released. I would say go give it a read so you could understand my point here, but don't give it a read because it was just terrible bull crap for clickbait. The title of his article is he'll never make it, or something around that. I don't know if that was the exact wording, regarding the Christian Hackenberg. And this is what we have coming from our media sources. Now, obviously here at the Jet Take and other shows, who do good jobs, we criticize players when they make mistakes, but we're not harshly criticizing a guy saying he'll never make it in the NFL when he hasn't even played a snap yet. Dave, I don't know about you, but we haven't done that yet.
So, Manish Mehta is just a clown in general. He's ripped a lot of players. He's ripped Geno. He's ripped Muhammad Wilkerson. I don't understand why he's still getting exclusives about Jets reports because all he's doing is just bashing innocent players for no reason. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. All right, David. Anything you want to talk about?
Not on my mind right now. Nope.
Nothing about the Jets you want to talk about?
Nope.
Really? Nothing?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some veterans. Seeing as you don't want to talk about it, I was going to give you a choice of the topic, but, I guess I'll have to pick it. Well, let's talk about some veterans who may be on the way out. Let's start with Brandon Marshall. Do you think he's on the way out? When I say on the way out, I mean he'll be out before next season.
Well, Brandon Marshall does have one more year left on this contract, and all this nonsense is saying that he's gonna ask for an extension. Meanwhile, he's already offering saying, "Oh, I'll play for free" and all that nonsense. The thing with Brandon Marshall, I want him to come back next year, okay? And I clearly made my point with that. He's a great leader, and there is a reason why we put him at that number 1 receiver spot. Okay, because if he goes out the door, who are you putting in that number 1 receiver spot? Because I don't want to see Eric Decker in there again. No way. We're going to make the same mistake that we did. And what if Eric Decker goes down, too? You're going to have just a bunch of not clueless, but you're going to have young talent who's just going to go up against, God forbid, knows what. So I love Brandon Marshall. I hope he comes back next season.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about Eric Decker?
Eric Decker, he sustained some injuries, but, the fact that he was injured this year and didn't get to play and show his red zone talent that he had in 2015, that he had somewhat this year if you look back at that Bills game, I definitely think I want to see that dynamic receiving duo year for I can't speak. I definitely want to see that dynamic receiving duo for at least one more year. Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. Incorporate the young talent. Eric Decker is an amazing number 2 receiver. You saw it in Denver. You saw it in 2015. He's good at what he does in that spot. I would love for him to come back guns a-blazing in 2017. If he says he's not going to miss a minute, I take his word for it.
Okay, what about Nick Mangold?
Nick Mangold is a great center, although injuries haven't impacted him too. But, he says he loves playing as a Jet, and he wants to be back, so I don't think he'll be out the door yet either.
Okay, what about David Harris?
I think it's come to that point where David Harris is one of the greatest Jets linebackers of all time, but unfortunately, he's lost that mojo. He's lost his skill set. And how old is he now? Like 35? 34?
I think it's 34.
34? Yeah, so most likely linebackers like that, they're going to end up retiring by the end of this year. So I think David Harris might be out the door.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. What about Bruno Giacomini?
I pray to God that Bruno Giacomini leaves because the guy is just nothing but pure trash. Pure trash. I'm sick and tired of what he does with that offensive line, letting so many defensive linemen go right after him. He needs to be gone. And we clearly mentioned that last year, too.
All right, what about his partner in crime, Ryan Clady?
I honestly think Ryan Clady, before he got injured, he had his great moments at the offensive line spot. Had a couple of holding calls here and there. But I would love for him to come back next season, give one more shot. But if he gets cut, there's no reason why. I'm not going to go on a rant if he gets cut, but that's kind of acceptable if he comes back or if he doesn't. But I'll personally give him another year.
Okay. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick's already out the door.
Well, I mean, the Jets could pick it up if they really wanted to, if they thought that.
No.
David, this is exactly opposite of what you were saying, at this time last offseason.
Yeah, well, that was before Fitztragic came into play.
Well, this is fair enough, I guess. What about Aaron Henderson?
This is kind of Aaron Henderson. I don't know what the deal is with him. I would love to see him out the door. If he just playing mind games with fans, he got on the non-related injury list or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's playing mind games with us, with the fans and with the organization. I would want him gone too. Let Darren Lee take his spot and progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. All right, let's talk about some young guys who may be starters next year. Let's talk about Brandon Shell. What do you see from him?
Brandon Shell has produced in that offensive tackle spot. I definitely like what he did in that New England game. I definitely like what he did in that Buffalo game. It's pretty much gotten to the point where young guys like Brandon Shell have stepped up. Darren Lee has immensely stood up, which pretty much I kind of proved my point in the offseason that Darren Lee should start over Aaron Henderson, and look what happened. All right, so I would definitely love young guys like Brandon Shell to get another shot.
What about Jordan Jenkins?
Even Jordan Jenkins, too. Jordan Jenkins really broke out towards the end of the season, and unfortunately, he's had his miscues with the dropped interception against the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. And, he's a rookie, and this is understandable in the National Football League. So put him in there next year and see what he's got.
What about Douglas Middleton? We've seen very little of him this year, but in the times we did see him, he seemed to be fitting very well in Todd Bowles' defense.
I mean, he has been, but I wouldn't see him as a starter, to be honest. I would see him as that four-stringer right behind Rontez Miles. The guy, I mean, what did he have? He had one recovered touchdown that was pretty much just a botched Bills mistake. I mean, come on.
It's the kick six. It has gone down in history as the kick six, and if you're not going to refer to that, I'm not going to respect you.
The kick six.
The kick six. That is the name of it.
The kick six. Okay. But, anyhow, I would probably love Doug Middleton to get some shots next season. Young talent has really come in for the Jets, but there are certain aspects that should still have some time to learn. But there are players like Brandon Shell, Darren Lee, Jordan Jenkins. They've really progressed in their rookie season, and who knows what they could do for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we keep talking about young talent. You know who's really good young talent coming out of college?
Oh.
His name is Deshaun Kaiser from the University of Notre Dame. And we have a caller on the line who's a huge fan of his, and we're going to bring him on. And that's no other than Joe from Long Beach. Joe, what's going on, my man? Zombie Nation sticks around for another year.
I want to thank you guys for having me on. First off, I am not a fan of that guy from that school that I don't talk about because I support a school full of real people called USC, and we smashed them this year. So I don't talk about those guys. Even though he may be talented, I'll give him that. But, he just chose to go to the wrong school. We can get into it. I am absolutely still, to this day, mind-boggled why Todd Bowles is still the coach of this football team. I just have no clue of what the thought process was here by firing Chan Gailey. You pretty much gutted your offensive staff, but you're keeping this guy around that has literally shown you nothing in 2 years that says, hey, I'm a legitimate head coach. He's mismanaged everything at every level of his job. And I always ask people, if you were as bad at your job as Todd Bowles is at his job, would you still have a job anymore? Most people will say no. And then I follow that question up, for some people that try to defend him, I say, well, tell me one thing that he does well. And no one can ever name anything that he does well.
Hey. He has an amazing poker face. I'll give him that. I never know what that guy is thinking.
Well, see, here's the thing. Well, of course you don't know what he's thinking. He's a zombie. So zombies don't think at this point. That's exactly what we call them on Let's Talk Jets. Zombies don't think. They don't have a thought process. That's why he just stands out there. I need to call a timeout. Oh, it looks like it's too late. That's all he does. There's no point to a lot of things that he does on his team. I mean, he's mismanaged so many players, and you guys were just talking about the young talent that we have on this team. He's mismanaged much of that. We're talking about Bilal Powell. Bilal Powell was mismanaged all season. Deion Simon mismanaged all season. Burris is still getting less snaps than Revis. He's been mismanaged all season. There's so many guys he's mismanaged. He had Darren Lee in coverage, wasn't using him correctly and blitzing. I mean, it's just time and time again that we can talk about how many mistakes that this man has made, and he's still allowed to be here. I'm mind blown by it.
Yeah, I think we all are. Honestly. I mean, just 2 years consecutive of losing us games, honestly.
Yep.
And I know this year, most of these games were basically out of reach by the third quarter, but there were a couple of them where still, even the ones we won, he's made some questionable decisions.
But you got to ask yourself, why were they out of reach in by the third quarter? Why?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to why. Well, why? When you look at let's just stick with the defense because that's actually what he controls. Everyone said let's fire Casey Rogers. Many fans of the team wanted Casey Rogers gone. Casey Rogers wasn't the guy that was running the defense. It was your friend Todd Bowles. That's exactly who was running this defense. So when you look at this defense, okay, what was our problem this year? Well, we've given up big play after big play after big play every game. Okay, why are we giving up big plays? Because you have guys like Revis that, the defensive game plans, there's no adjustments in them. So when he gets burned and when he gets beat because he's singled up every game with a team star, when he's shown you time and time again that he can't cover these guys, but you still keep putting him in that position, whose fault is that? How many blown coverages did we have this year? How many there was a blown coverage in every game, every single one. Where's the adjustment? Where's the change of personnel if guys aren't playing? Where's the accountability tag that he rode in on? Where is it at? Because Revis was allowed to play however he wanted to. Gilchrist was allowed to play however he wanted to. You had guys just doing whatever out there, showing no effort. Wilkerson, I mean, there were so many guys on defense that would just show you on tape that they did not give a damn, and they were still allowed to start every game instead of starting these young rookies that we had behind them or giving them less snaps. It's absolutely mind-blowing. We can go to the offensive side of the ball as well because guess what? As a head coach in this league, you run the team, okay? And it's crazy because everything that Todd Bowles has been this year, every mistake that he's made was some of the same mistakes that Rex made, the same stuff. And I remember people harping on Rex when the offense was garbage, okay? Even though the offensive coordinator was trash and spotty, even though the offensive personnel were not as good as the ones we had this year or last year at all, not even close. Rex never had an offense like this. Rex was still hammered for it. You're not a defensive coordinator anymore, Rex. You're the head coach of this football team, Rex. You need to learn how to be a head coach, Rex. And you know what? You're not that, so guess what? We need to get you out of here. That's what the entire fan base said. They blasted him for not putting up points. They blasted him for never having a functional offense. They blasted him left and right. Todd Bowles has publicly came out and said when the offense was trash this year, complete garbage, he was not going to offensive meetings. Are you serious? So you're sitting here telling me not only did you allow Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw our season away because that guy was one of his main backers. When he came back here because he wanted him back here. So you brought Ryan Fitzpatrick back. He blew up our season. You would not start Geno Smith until you were literally forced to in Week 7. By then the season was over. The season was done. We were done. We were not going to the playoffs. It was over. You waited until the 7th week to start this young kid. You continuously allowed this guy to ruin the offense, and not once did you go in there and say, hey, listen, we need to change some things up. We need to do something different. Chan, listen, Eric Decker, because everybody said, oh, the injury to Eric Decker was so big, please. Eric Decker had like 3 catches before he got hurt. That's something we talked about on Let's Talk Jets on a weekly basis. This guy was not a part of the offense and was frustrated because of it. So you didn't go into any of those meetings and say, listen, this guy Decker, he had a ton of catches for us last year. I don't know if you guys know him. Had a bunch of touchdowns for us last year, too, when we set franchise records for our offense last year.
Yeah, he sounds familiar. He sounds a little bit familiar.
I'm pretty sure we all know who he was, but clearly he was slipping the mind of some of the guys in that offensive in our offensive staff. Hey, listen, Chan, let's get him the football. Let's get him some screens. Let's get him some slants. Let's get him something. But we need to get this guy to football. Or how about, hey, in the red zone, let's stop putting the ball in the hands of Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chan. Let's stop doing that. Because guess what? He's killing us. At this point, he's statistically the worst quarterback in the league, and he leads the league in red zone interceptions, red zone turnovers overall. He's killing our drives. Let's put the ball in the hands of Matt Forte, Chan. Hey, Chan, we got this guy named Bilal Powell. I don't know if you know him. He's been in the league a little bit. Let's put the ball in the hands of that kid. I think he has ability. I think he can run.
But wait. What about C.J. Spiller? He's reliable. C.J. Spiller, right?
It's just inexcusable mismanagement. It's inexcusable. Inexcusable. As the season's going down the toilet and the offense is killing us, you did nothing. You stood there, you zombie. But that's what he always does. That's what he always does. When things are going bad on the field, he does nothing there either. He'll stand there with his arms folded like a zombie, brainless, and watch it happen. Watch it happen every time. So you're telling me you're allowed to mismanage the defense, you're allowed to mismanage the offense, you're allowed to mismanage the game by blowing through timeouts, by making bad calls, by not knowing what you're doing out there. Defensive packages have been late all year. All year. How many penalties did we get? How many 12? How many too many men on the field penalties did we get?
Wait a minute.
The team was so undisciplined this year. How many pass interferences did we get? How many times did we give up penalties to keep other teams' drives going this year? Who's accountable for this? So you're telling me as a head coach, these players can be unmotivated, unprepared, and undisciplined? The 3 big uns, and you can still be the coach of the New York Jets? Wow. What does that say? What does that say? And so you fire the offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey, which I understand. I get it. Okay, fine. We don't like his play calling this year, even though a lot of fans are saying, hey, don't fire Todd Bowles because he went 10-6. Guess what? Chan Gailey went 10-6 here as well and set franchise records. But, okay, fine. You want to fire him? That's fine. What offensive coordinator is going to come in here? Chan was here for 2 years. You got rid of him because he had a bad year. Fine. Who's going to come under a coach that's on the hot seat right now? Who? You got to be kidding me. Who wants this job? Who wants this job? You got a team going into next year with all types of questions at quarterback. Hell, you got questions everywhere. You got questions everywhere on this team. Who in the hell would want this job? It is mind-boggling how you didn't clean out this staff. You should have got rid of him. You're telling me Sean Payton, there's tons of rumors that he may be out of there in New Orleans. There's other guys that may shake loose as well. Big-time coaches with big-time talent that have won before, won the big one or are constantly in the big one. You're telling me we're going to pass them up for this clown? So if Sean Payton shakes loose this year, you're still confident with Todd Bowles? Oh my God! It's like there's a dumb step around every corner. We just do something stupid every year, and this to me is just the top of stupidity mountain. I am mind blown. How are you still here? I don't get it.
I agree with you, Joe, 100%, man. And I love listening to your rant about Todd Bowles.
That was amazing. That was an amazing rant. We need to put that on some sort of video. I'm sure we'll get that produced by tonight.
Agreed. But his rants they're amazing, but they're 100% true. Todd Bowles is a zombie nation, and I'm shocked that people are coming up to me and telling me that he's a good coach. No accountability, poor time management, poor game management. And he honestly is a zombie because he didn't realize rookies who were outplaying veterans by possibly a long shot. Now, here's something even funnier. I was looking on the NFL mobile app earlier, and I saw a video that Woody Johnson said that Todd Bowles can lead the Jets to the Super Bowl. So not only are they not firing him, they now think that Todd Bowles can lead the Jets to the Super Bowl. And I just sat there on my phone. I just sat there laughing hard. Joe, I actually just want you to say this right now. Has Woody Johnson gone senile?
I think that's a delusional statement.
I think he's had too much eye drops.
Let me tell you something. You think he can lead you to a Super Bowl? Let's go back to last year. Okay, we had one of the softest schedules in the entire league. We were a team that was full of talent that had just gotten bought. Mind you, all these players that he's talking about getting rid of, Revis and Gilchrist and Screen, and all these guys we might get rid of this year, he brought them all in here. Even from a personnel standpoint, it was him. He's picked all these guys. He handpicked all of these guys to be here. So last year we were stocked to the gills. Like I said, we set franchise records. The only question going into last year, because we all knew that our defense was set, we had guys that were here that had shown talent. The only question was, hey, can our offense perform? That was it. Can we do something offensively to move the football? We brought in Brandon Marshall, did a couple things in the offensive line, brought in James Carpenter. Fine. We go into the year, we set franchise records. We go 10-6. We get blasted 2 times by Rex. We don't even make the playoffs. You're talking about winning a Super Bowl. This guy couldn't make the playoffs with one of the softest schedules in the NFL. The softest schedules. We played some garbage teams that year. Garbage. And we got blasted by garbage teams too. Do you remember the Texans game when he made no adjustments against DeAndre Hopkins? That dude could have had like 700. That dude could have had like 700 yards that game easily. He was destroying Revis on that side. It wasn't even close. Guess who was throwing the ball? T.J. Yates. That guy's trash. He had like 300-something yards throwing the football that game. We got beat by a bad Eagles team. I mean, you watch all those games. We shouldn't even went 10-6. We let so many bad teams that year hang around, and he made mistakes after mistake after mistake coaching-wise during that year, blowing through timeout. Go watch that Raiders game. He had no clue of what he was doing, and it was clear as day. But what was the excuse that year? Oh, well, he's a rookie head coach. These are just rookie things that he's doing. He's just making mistakes because he doesn't know yet. Next year, he'll be better. This year, he's worse. He's worse this year. He's worse. We could talk about the blowing through timeouts. We could talk about all those things. This dude, against the Bills, he doesn't go for two because he didn't know you had to. That's simple math. That's not even coaching. That's like fundamental math.
Does he even have a GED?
I don't know. He left the Bills in the game. And more than, even though we talk about them being unmotivated, undisciplined, unprepared, this dude lost the locker room. How many guys this year came out and just absolutely said whatever they wanted to do?
A lot.
Yeah, Fitz stand up on a podium, rip the entire organization, coaching staff, franchise owner, everybody.
They didn't believe in
and they even paid him $12 million, and he bashes the organization.
And then he gets a start next week too. Don't forget that, because it doesn't matter what you do or say. You can get a start because I'm a zombie.
Just a zombie.
Dexter,
Joe.
Mangold, Marshall, you want to lobby for Fitz in the offseason while we're doing negotiations? That's fine too, because I'm a zombie. I'm not going to stop you. You want to put pictures on Instagram? You want to mess up our negotiation? Because that happens in every other winning franchise, right? With that has a president and an identity. Excuse me. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen with the Steelers. Doesn't happen with the Ravens, and it damn sure don't happen with the Patriots. But we do it here. This is a clown franchise run by a zombie. That's what this has turned into. He lost the locker room. Listen to some of these statements from these younger players where they're coming out and talking about what was going on. These guys, this literally was the guys, they were running the asylum. This is nuts. How can you have this guy still here? How can you be talking about winning a Super Bowl with this? How can you win a Super Bowl? No team is going to win a Super Bowl like that. No team. He needs to make the playoffs first before we even talk about thinking about winning a Super Bowl.
And we won't.
Clear that Woody Johnson become delusional.
You're on fire right now, man, and I hate to do this to you, bro, because you're just on fire. But we're running a little on time because we have a couple other people on hold right now. So we definitely love you to call in next week because you're just spitting the absolute truth. And I will just say real quick to your thing about Chan, I absolutely agree. I mean, the Jets have been incredibly blessed the past 2 years to say, hey, don't put this in Fitzpatrick's hand. Put this in Marshall, Decker, Anunwa, Anderson, Smith, Powell, Forte, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. So many options that we didn't go to him. But, Joe, go ahead and give out your all your social media. Do your shameless promoting.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you guys again for having me on. You guys do a great show here. Again, I'm on Let's Talk Jets. We're live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Our phone number is 929-477-2651. I do a show there where we talk about nothing but Jets. I have a co-host named Tyson Rouse. She's excellent as well. Let me shamelessly promote our Facebook page. Everyone go on Facebook, search Long Beach Joe. Like that page. Our content's up there. Message us. We'll message you right back. We also love hearing feedback about what you guys think we do over on Let's Talk Jets. I'm also on Twitter as well at YoungJ000. That's 3 zeros. Follow me. I'll follow you right back. You want to troll me? Hey, I'm here for it. I'll troll you right back. I'm also on YouTube as well at YoungJ00. That's 2 zeros on YouTube, 3 on Twitter. I do weekly pick-ems about the rest of the NFL. I also talk about the Jets. Why? I don't know, but I do. You can message me. We can go back and forth on there. Comment, subscribe to my content on there. I love going back and forth with people. And as always, guys, when you see me, okay, arms out, chest open, free hugs for everyone. I want to thank you guys for having me on, man. You guys are the best.
Hey, man, we couldn't do it without the callers like you. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for being on, Joe. I will be calling into Let's Talk Jets on Tuesday.
All right, awesome.
Have a good night.
Night. All right, and that was a great call from Joe. We got to keep going, and this is our last caller of the night. It's going to be the one and only Rumi. Rumi, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How you doing tonight? Thanks for taking my call. I was rushing to get home because I wanted to be able to talk to you guys.
Oh, we saved a good amount of time for you, Rumi. I hope you brought the heat tonight because, Joe's going to be really hard to top, but I heard you're pretty good at cooking.
That's tough.
So I'm pretty sure.
Exactly. That's going to be tough to follow after him with his rant about, the zombie bowls.
Yeah,
but
that was a pretty good one.
I'm
but
just
I have a problem with this whole Hackenberg. I don't know about you guys, but I have this problem with this whole Hackenberg not being ready and he can't hit the ocean comment.
Yeah, I had a little rant about that earlier on in the show.
I didn't get to hear it. But I don't understand that because who's scouting these players? You're telling me that he's not ready as a, second-round draft pick, and yet Bryce Petty was picked, fourth round in 2014?
Yep.
And he's not even ready? I mean, he has all these – he can't throw, all the passes accurately to Robbie Anderson. But I don't think it's him, though. I think it's the coaches. Someone needs to step up and help these two guys. I was thinking maybe Chad Pennington or Testaverde. Are they available this summer? Can you please help these guys? I mean, I'm getting desperate at this point.
Chad Pennington is actually fairly close with the Jets organization nowadays. I see him all the time on the Jets Twitter account. He's doing film breakdowns with them. He's involved within the Jets community. I would not be shocked if they brought him in at some sort of position. Chad Pennington Chad Pennington in his days where he wasn't injured or not a Miami Dolphin was pretty good. I mean, I would want him as my quarterback coach if I were being fully honest. And maybe that's why they fired Kevin Patullo. I mean, maybe you're absolutely right. It wasn't the coaches. But yeah, let's talk about the Hackenberg thing. I hated the pick, if I was going to be absolutely honest. I don't know if you called into the draft special that night, but it was not pretty for me. I hung up immediately when we picked him in the second round. I had a fifth-round grade on the guy. So I don't know what McCagnon saw in him, but I guess we're going to have to trust Mac on this one and maybe just find some better coaches. But, Arumi, I know you just got home and you're dedicating your time right now to the show, but Manish Mehta released an article about 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, depending on how long Joe's call was. It was titled "He'll Never Make It," and it was about Christian Hackenberg and how he'll never make it. That's sad. So what's your take on that?
I mean, how does this guy know, first of all? I mean, he's not some kind of expert at being a quarterback. But, I mean, I know they're saying Dak Prescott, first of all, he was picked fourth round, correct? And he has a strong offensive line, which I know is important to have. But it's not necessarily all of that. He needs to be able to throw it to Dez Bryant, right? All those long passes, incredible throws. So part of me thinks that it's not just the player itself. I think it's the coach. Maybe they have good coaching staff in Dallas, something that we need. Because it's harder for me to believe they're just saying it's not just because of the offensive line. I don't believe that at all. I mean, that's important, but I don't think that's all of it.
No,
I absolutely have a good offensive line. I don't think Petty could throw all those incredible passes like Dak.
Yeah, I don't want to gloat or anything, but, Dak Prescott was my favorite quarterback coming out of this draft class. I loved him. I watched him at Mississippi State. I'm a big Florida Gator fan. We faced him a couple times. I saw what he did to an Alabama defense, which is basically an NFL defense when you look at it, maybe like the epitome of the Cleveland Browns if we're going to compare it. And he did fairly well against them for like 3 years. I think he was a solid kid with a solid attitude, and that's why I liked him. And he's showing it in Dallas. He's showing that he's a leader. He's showing that he can make every throw, and he's showing that he's smart enough to lead a fairly complex offense. Now, I do think the offensive line does help him a bit, but just to play devil's advocate, Tony Romo got hurt in preseason. That offensive line wasn't doing too well for him then, so it must be Dak doing some right things.
Well, how come we couldn't get him then? I mean, what are these scouting people? I mean, I feel like they're failing. They're saying, okay, we need to do better in the draft. Okay, if you look back at 2013, we haven't been doing fairly well picking the best players. I don't want to, pinpoint. You know who I'm talking about. I'm just saying.
The one and only Mr. John is
Exactly. And then I don't understand. I mean, now they're saying that Darren Lee is the worst rookie linebacker. I mean, I saw that article. I'm like, really? I don't understand why they're saying all this stuff.
The thing about Darren Lee,
I mean, that's not.
The thing about Darren Lee, in my mind, is that he's going to need a couple years to get to the NFL level. I think he had an okay rookie season. I do think that coaching hurt him a little. We saw his coach get fired. So there's a reason that he was fired. So let's just hope that the new coach can come in, maybe teach him a couple new things. David, what's your take on that?
Well, Darren Lee did have an okay rookie season. I definitely want him to start over Aaron Henderson, and I think he will be starting for the next couple of years as he's going to progress onto that NFL level. But I actually wanted to get Rumi's take on who would she want in the 6th pick in the draft, but it looks like she's gone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, she's back.
Never mind.
She is back. She must have disconnected. Rumi, you're back on.
You disconnected.
I don't know. I was sending a tweet, and I looked up, and you were disconnected. So
it said enter the pin. I'm like, oh, no. What's going on? I don't know what happened. But sorry about that.
It's okay, Rumi. But I wanted to thank you for calling in. Talking to you is an absolute blast, especially on Twitter and whatnot. But since you do love the draft so much and you do bash players who do come out of the draft, i.e. D. Milner, who do you see the Jets drafting with the 6th pick this year?
Okay, unless Mac say he made a mistake with this Hackenberg pick, 2nd round, I don't see him picking a quarterback. I mean, I want to, but I don't think he will. And I really want them to pick like a running back. I don't think that's happening either with like a Foreman or Dalvin Cook. I think they're going to go with pass rusher or cornerback. Because now I don't even know about Revis. They're saying that they're not going to get rid of him either, right? They're going to change him to safety.
They're saying that's definitely a possibility. Ben found a pretty reliable source that said that unless Revis takes a major pay cut, he will no longer be with the team. That's just what the source said. He's pretty reliable, though.
Okay, but I see us taking another defensive player like we always do in the 1st round.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody says, oh, we got to take offense. Unless it's quarterback or left tackle, we don't need to take offense. I'm going to be completely honest. As long as we re-sign Brian Winters, I think we're fairly good on offense. I think the running back core is stable. The wide receiving core is elite in my mind. And besides left tackle, and as long as we get Brian Winters squared away, as I said, the offensive line's pretty good. So I think we kind of do need to focus on defense. The defensive line, I think, is okay. Obviously, coaching would improve the effort from some of the individuals. Muhammad Wilkerson. The linebacking core, it's old and slow, at least at the starters, except for Darren Lee and Jordan Jenkins. Jordan Jenkins we've seen come on a little bit towards the end of the year. Same goes with Darren Lee. But inside linebackers, we definitely need to get one. And an edge rusher. Both probably will be linebackers. So Jets need to go figure something out there. And then I think you can point out every position in the
tight end too. We need a tight end, but it doesn't have to be 1st round like you're saying, right? Because it's a good class this year. The tight end.
This is a really good tight end class. I mean, there are guys who I think you can get in the 6th round could be very good starters in the NFL. There's a guy named Jeremy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's no problem. There's a guy named Jeremy Sprinkle from Arkansas who, he's just been a beast in the SEC. And, he's like my number 7 tight end overall. I've been doing my rankings over the past couple of weeks. And this is just such a deep class. And there's a guy from Miami, David Njoku. He's a little smaller than Gronk, but he's like twice as athletic. So just think of that. I believe he's like 6'4". So I believe he's a little shorter than Brandon Marshall, but he's like 250 pounds, and he's just a stud. He's a track and field athlete, and he's a great guy. He's probably my number 1 towards the end of the year. But yeah, this is a really good tight end class. If you were looking to get one, you could definitely find one.
And plus, we don't have Chan Gailey anymore, so this new coach should be able to use a tight end. I'm kind of excited by that.
And running backs, too.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, Rumi, what is your take on that? What is your take on the quote-unquote retirement of Chan Gailey, even though most of us know that it's
I don't believe that, because you said, he had a statement in December, right? He's excited to come back next year.
Yeah. It sounds like a push-out to me.
Yes. And it seems like Bowles is fine getting rid of the guys that he actually brought in, except for Casey Rogers, his guy. I mean, he gets to keep his job, which is horrible.
I guess the zombie brain is loyal at the end of the day. We'll give Todd Bowles that. An amazing poker face and loyal. That's what we'll give him.
He must have brainwashed everybody, Woody Johnson and Mac, too.
This actually makes sense. I'm taking credit for that. I'm taking credit for that, Rumi. I'm sorry. Rumi, who do you think we should replace Chan Gately with? Anybody off the top of your head?
Okay, I know they were looking at that quarterback coach from Eagles, John DeFilippo or something. Oh, I hope he doesn't get him.
Yeah, well, good news. Good news for that.
Okay.
The Eagles denied the request to interview him. So we don't even get the chance to hire him.
I want somebody else I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Norv Turner as a head coach, but maybe he could be a good offensive coach. I don't know. Offensive coordinator, maybe he's better at that.
Well,
out there.
Norv is a pretty good offensive mind, but what I don't really like about Norv's offense, it's kind of old. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't. It might kind of fit us, though, when you really think about it, because it doesn't need a great quarterback to have success, but it needs a great running back. A guy like Adrian Peterson, who he just happened to have in Minnesota for the last 3 years.
But it seems like all the good offensive coordinators are going for the head coaching job, like that guy from Patriots. I forgot his name. Josh Daniels? Is that his name?
Josh McDaniels.
Oh, McDaniels, yeah. They're all going for the head coaching position.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's left.
Mike McCoy. That's probably the number one right now.
Okay, can we get him or?
Yeah,
I would want Mike McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, he just got fired from a head coaching job. I don't know how desirable he is throughout the league. And really, when you look at offensive coordinators, who's in a heavy need of one right now? I don't know if the Saints fired him. I know they fired a bunch of coaches today. But really, the Jets are probably the number one landing spot for most offensive coordinators.
Is he really aggressive, personality-wise? Because I don't want another zombie, another guy who's quiet and won't say anything. That's another concern for me.
Well,
I want somebody assertive, loud.
That's definitely not the Mike McCoy that I know, that I've seen. But he's a very good offensive line. He knows how to utilize his talent. And honestly, I don't think he deserved to get fired. If you look, I went over this earlier and I shortened this a bit. 8 out of the 11 starters on their offense this year were out for the Chargers on the IR. And it was basically just Phillip Rivers and Hunter Henry and then Antonio Gates towards the end of the year getting the job done. So I just feel
Gordon got hurt too, right? Melvin Gordon got hurt.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon got hurt towards the end. I forgot that he even had them. Wow.
Running back. I like him.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Woodhead was ahead of him to start the year, and that's why Melvin Gordon really got, the second win going. But, I feel like he would be our number one target. And I feel like David feels the same way based on what we talked through throughout the show.
Well, he's got the experience as a head coach, and he's been to a playoff before, so why not bring him in? But unfortunately, Zombie Nation has returned. So.
Well, he has to get along with Todd Bowles, right? That's the issue.
Yeah, that seems to be the clause. Tyrod Taylor has an injury clause in his contract. Mike McCoy is going to have you're going to be my best friend or you're gone clause in his contract. You're going to let me eat your tuna fish sandwich out of the fridge and you're not going to complain. Otherwise, you will be gone. Ask Chan. Here's his fax number because he doesn't have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm. What are our chances of getting Tyrod Taylor? I know he was in surgery today.
Yeah, from what I've been told is that the Bills are going to try and fight this in a court. The way Tyrod did this was he opted to take the surgery himself. Now, the way they have this in the contract is if he doesn't pass the physical on March 11th, which he probably won't since he's going over a pretty good surgery, they're going to be responsible for all his money, basically, even if they cut him. So I doubt they would let him go, but I've been told that they're going to fight it in the court of law, saying that, hey, you know, he chose to do this surgery. He didn't necessarily have to. Mm-hmm. He chose to do this. So they might end up getting away with this, and he might hit the market. But my initial thought right now is that Tyrod Taylor is not going to hit the market, and that we are going to be stuck with Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty, and nope, I can't say that, and some other loser who's going to be a free agent because they stink.
That's our team.
I don't want Kaepernick either because he's done with the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't want Kaepernick.
No, thank you.
Too much media attention. I mean, we get enough bad attention in New York. All we need is a guy like him. Can you imagine the fans on Twitter?
Oh my God, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. All right, Rumi. It's that time of the night where the show has to end. So thank you very much for calling in. You offered some really good.
It always goes really quickly, and I always like talking to you guys. And I hope Ben feels much better, by the way.
Yeah, this is kind of executive decision from upper management in Ben's life, not coming on the show tonight. I don't know if you get that joke, but yes, he wishes he could be on the show tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't. And I'm sure he's listening, and I'm sure he said thank you for coming on the show. So, Rumi, why don't you go ahead and shout out all your social media?
Oh, I only have Twitter. My Twitter handle is RKLoveJets. And like I said, thank you guys. You guys are doing a great job. And also, it's nice talking to you, David.
Thank you, Rumi.
And you guys are doing an awesome job, and keep up the good work. And I guess I'll talk to you guys next week. Are you still having a show even though it's off-season?
Yes, absolutely. The Jet Take never takes a break unless we're just in a downward spiral, like the last couple weeks.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, well, you guys have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling in, Rumi.
Thank you for being on, Rumi.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
All right, and that was our last caller of the night. That was Rumi, and go follow her on Twitter. That's at RKLoveJets. All right, David, can you believe it's been 2 hours already?
I feel like I just got back from my swim meet, but these 2 hours just flew by very, very quickly.
David, why don't you tell everybody how well you did in your swim meets today?
Yeah, well,
This boy's a champion, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be on a Wheaties box one day. He's taken over the swimming game. Look out, Michael Phelps. David's on the way, and he's got gills. David's got gills. It's proven.
Yeah, well, I had a swim meet today. You know, we got the win, and I won all 4 of my events, even though one of them was a relay. But I won all 3 of my individual events, and it was a lot of fun swimming. And, you know, I'm a captain of this team, and I love these guys. And, you know, hopefully I'm at least doing a better job than Zombie Nation Bowles, because I can actually try to motivate my team, get my team pumped up. And it actually works quite well, shockingly. So, you know, I love doing what I do, being a leader.
Well, David, I will say, compared to Todd Bowles, you have one distinct advantage. You can threaten to drown them if you really wanted to. I don't know if Todd Bowles can do that. Well, maybe drown them in, like, the boringness of his life. But, all right, David, we're going to have to sign off for tonight. I want to thank you for coming on and co-hosting with me tonight. You did a very good job. Why don't you go ahead and give out all your social medias and your YouTube and everything else that you do.
All right, so my YouTube handle name is Gangrene David. I blog about the Jets. I do game day videos. I do whatever you want. I even have guests on, whether it's other fans or whether it's fellow Jet fans. You can follow me on Instagram at gangrene_David. You can follow me on Twitter at gangrenedavid1. I'm going to do a Joe line here. Message me. I'll message you right back. You know, I love talking to Jet fans. I love interacting with the fan base, and I love the friendships that have flourished throughout the time that I've had my Twitter, throughout the time that I've pretty much interacted with this amazing fan base. So thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I love talking Jets with each and every one of you, and I will hope to talk to you guys in the near future, and hopefully, God forbid, with this New York Jets team, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we can all say that with a lot of praise in it. David, let's make a pact. The next time you co-host, let's make sure the Jets have another Super Bowl.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. All right, David. Well, thanks for co-hosting, man.
No problem. Anytime.
All right, and that was Gangrene David. Of course, go follow him on YouTube, Twitter. Give him a ring on his cell phone. His phone number is, and I just freaked him out a little bit because he's still on the line. All right, folks, thank you guys so much for, bearing through another episode of the Jet Take. I hope you enjoyed all of our takes tonight. Hope you enjoyed all of our opinions. Of course, you can follow us on every social media you can think of. Just search The Jet Take on Twitter. We're at The Jet Take. Instagram, just search The Jet Take. We're on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud. Oh, man, iHeartRadio. We're on that now. I mean, we're getting pretty big time, folks. Not to brag or anything, but, yeah, just thank you guys so much for all the ongoing support. You don't even realize how much we appreciate it. We reached over 10,000 listens the other day, and, that's a lot, seeing as we've only done about 30-something episodes. So just love the support from all you guys. We love the support that this fan base gives us on a weekly basis. So once again, just thank you guys, and listen in next week, and make sure to call in and give your very own Jet Take. I'm Kyle Fahey, and we're going to leave you with the best chant in the NFL. Let's go, Jets.